Nobody forgets. So it had to happen by that. It could never have gone on if it didn't happen right then and there, even during that week. Paul said, it's not just me, guys. I'm the least of them. I got it later. I saw it in a vision. But they saw it. And you know what? He says, there are hundreds of people around today. They're alive today. Now, if they weren't, you couldn't write that because they would just say, you're crazy, Paul. No, there are hundreds of them. Some have died, but hundreds of them are still living who saw this. What does that mean? Well, you'd never write it if it could be disproved. And the 11, the Mary, the others, hundreds, their lives. Look at their lives. They spend the rest of their lives suffering everything. I'll give up anything now. I don't care anymore. For something that wasn't true. No way on earth. There are people who listen to faith and what somebody told them, and they'll say, I believe. But they say, this is not the question here. This is people who saw it or didn't. So therefore, they knew what it was. They knew the truth. They spent the rest of their life spending everything in their life to tell the world it is real. It had to be a very powerful event. They weren't deceitful people. They were the most honest people. They would give up everything. And if they could offer their life, they said, I don't want my life. I have reality. I don't care. There's no way. They were down to earth people, real people, but their lives become the most magnificent lives. Only God. Peter doesn't glorify himself. John, they don't glorify each other. They say, hey, no, we messed up here, we messed up there. We said to him, we said this stupid thing. They say such stupid things in the gospel to him. Messiah says, I have bread you know not of. Now, this is very spiritual, big stuff. But they say, you know what? He's talking about lunch. He has some lunch stored away. And they record it. There's no way unless you're people who are determined, dedicated to the truth, no matter what. Truth begets truthfulness. Here who are they? Jewish men. They're observant. They were kosher. They are so kosher. Peter said, I'm not even going to, when he has the vision, he says, I've never let an unkosher thing in my mouth. And of anything, they would be saying, wait a minute, to proclaim this thing, because they know. You're saying, hey, this is the divine. That would look like idolatry unless it happened. The Jewish people would be the last people to spread the gospel, yet they became the first. Look at them. Everything went again. How do you prove something in a fire? How do you prove something metal? You put it in the fire, you put it all on. Well, what happened to them? Everything went against them. The Roman Empire tried to kill them. The Sanhedrin, everything went against them. But they stood. They stood. It's historical. They died. They died. They were killed. They were willing to be arrested. Unparalleled in history. Not a single one changed under pressure. The power of the Roman Empire could not crush these men and these women. Yet in the end, the Roman Empire would be undone by it. The last letters of Paul, he's speaking about persecution. He's getting ready to be killed. The book of Peter, he talks about the persecution and getting ready to be killed. All the witnesses all of them gave up their lives. John was on the island in the end, but the rest died by being killed for their faith, and they never said anything but. I said, we don't care. What we saw is real. We saw, we touched, we heard, we felt. It's true. The gospel is totally unique. People don't realize how radical it is. They all died and gave their lives for what they saw, that tomb was empty. All it would take is one of them to say, well, I'm not really sure. It might have been, sort of been, almost, I don't know. One Jackie Mason in there, and the whole thing would have been gone. But it wasn't. Even Thomas, who doubted, changed. Now, it's amazing. I'm not going to read you the words of an Orthodox Jewish scholar. He is, to this day, Orthodox Jewish. His name is Pinchas Lapid. He looked at the evidence, and this is what he writes. How can it be explained that against all plausibility, his followers, Messiah, did not scatter, they were not forgotten, and that the cause of Jesus, Yeshua, did not reach its end on the cross? In other words, how did it nevertheless come about that the followers of Yeshua, Jesus, were able to conquer this event, that despite everything, he became the Savior? What happened when this scared, frightened band of apostles, which were just about to throw away everything in order to flee in despair to Galilee, when these peasants, these shepherds, these fishermen, who betrayed and denied him and then failed him miserably, suddenly could be changed overnight into a confident people, convinced of salvation, able to work with much more success after that event than before. No vision, no hallucination, nothing can explain such a revolutionary transformation. This is an Orthodox Jew. He wrote a book. You know what the book is called? The book is called The Resurrection of Jesus. An Orthodox Jew. He said it happened. He said, I can't explain away. It happened. He says, well, I don't know. I don't know that I can accept it, accept him, but it happened. Peter, crucified. Andrew, crucified. Matthew, the sword. John, only one, natural. James, crucified. Philip, crucified. Simon, Shimon, crucified. Thaddeus, killed by arrows. James, by our account, stoned. Thomas, spear. Bartholomew, crucified. James of Zebedee, the sword. Paul, beheaded. Who before Sunday morning were shaking in their boots. What is the X factor? By the way, I called this message the Titanic fact and the power of X. What alone can make sense of it? What alone could transform them all? That could change the crushed people, change the world? How to be powerful enough that it would take away all fear of death. The crucifixion was a real, historic event of flesh and blood reality. The X factor has to be a real, historic event of flesh and blood reality enough to overcome the crucifixion. The X factor has to be so powerful that not only it overcomes the crucifixion, it overwhelms it. It had to be even more graphic than watching him on that cross. More life-changing and more flesh and blood real. X equals nothing